Welcome back, I'm Tedward. Welcome to my driveway and welcome to the car that I've been living with for the past few days. This is the 2024 Cadillac Lyriq. This is the Sport 3 variant, it has all-wheel drive, 500 horsepower, and a range of just over 300 miles. As you can see by the choreography of the lighting design, this is a luxury Ultium in the GM lineup, and I've been fairly impressed, but it is not all things to all people. And that is actually what I like most about this Lyriq, is that first and foremost, it is a Cadillac. What's interesting is that they've taken sort of this crossover design, which I think I understand because as their new foray into the Ultium Cadillac EVs, it needs to be versatile. They need to be able to use this as a jumping off point. But we're seeing this IQ language everywhere with Cadillac. So Lyriq IQ, we've got the Escalade IQ and the Celestique at the end IQ as well. So that is going to be the nomenclature. And here we have the 600E4 telling us it's all-wheel drive, and the 600 is the torque figure. Unfortunately, that is in Newton meters, not in pound-feet. So it's really closer to 440 to 450 pound-feet of torque, not 600. That would be nice, but that's what I like about this Lyriq, is it's just not all about performance, which it has, but it's not trying to be a sports car. It's not trying to set records with 0 to 60 times. It's just trying to be a Cadillac. And I feel like there's this really great return to true north with Cadillac with their EV lineup. And I hope that keeps going. So let me show you around the car first. When we come up to the car, we're greeted with these door handles. They're pretty nice because they just always work. I've never had a situation where I'm waiting for that to pop out. They're just there waiting for me. Good on them. Inside, we've got these thrones up front. They're quite comfortable, and you even have speakers in the headrest because this AKG 19 speaker system really hits. This is definitely luxury. So this one, as tested, is around $78,000, including destination, not including tax rebates. You can deal with that later. We never know what's going to change, so I'm just going to give you the MSRP as it sits. And then you even get massaging seats right here. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let me show you in back, because when this came out first, I started seeing it almost just exclusively as a livery vehicle. I didn't see anyone just buying the Lyriq, and now I'm starting to see that. But when they first came out, it seemed like these were fleet vehicles for hotels and limo companies, because there is so much space back here. It feels premium, and I would imagine it's pretty effective and efficient for a limousine company just going back and forth to the airport to use something like this. You have USB-Cs down here. You've got actually a full-blown plug, 12-volt plug down here, and you have great ergonomic controls for your rear passenger HVAC. What a lovely place to be. In the rear, we can kick because we have the tech package that's going to open our rear hatch. Decent floor space back here. You've got your charging infrastructure and things, so that way if you want to charge at home, you're good to go. And to let you know you're in a Cadillac, a pretty fancy, I doubt it's actually leather, but leather looking tonneau cover. Pretty good stuff. So overall, it's a pretty standard car, but I think what really sets this apart is the way it drives. Because it's unfair to just assume that everything in the Ultium platform is the same. And we had a Blazer the other day, and I just wasn't that impressed with it. I think the Equinox is the better buy. No frunk up here, but you do get your big Cadillac badge on there, so that's okay. And actually, there's a big Cadillac badge up here. This is interesting to me. I'm not totally sure why they put sort of this insulation here, because there's no injector noise that you're trying to quiet down. The Lyriq weighs close to 6,000 pounds, so gluing us to the road on these 22-inch 6-lug wheels are 275 section tires all around. Nice graphics, light up and go all the way across this giant display. And something that I love about this Cadillac is that you get a power button, a start-stop button. This is going away on other GM Ultium platform vehicles. I have not seen that in the Silverado, the Equinox, or the Blazer EV. Those, you simply hit a brake pedal and it starts. But I like the power button. Once you're sitting inside, it does appear that a lot of extra attention to build quality is given to the Cadillac above its maybe Chevrolet counterparts, because There is no creaking or squeaking or anything in any of this. And I just think that they've done a great job integrating these screens into the vehicle. They've separated them properly, but they don't look separate. It doesn't look like these tacked on things where they're trying to pretend that this is one. It really is, and it's nice. They do a really good job also of making pretty flawless, non-laggy screens. This is working all of the time. I love that I can quickly get information about the car, and I can check what's going on with my energy usage, even air quality. I mean, this is telling me the air quality measures interior particulate matter in parts per million. That's amazing. That's fun. I don't think I've noticed this in any other vehicle. Maybe I'm just not driving the right fancy things, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. On our steering wheel, you'll notice this lovely bar here that tells us we've got Super Cruise, which can be enabled down here. Obviously, we're sitting in my driveway, so that's not going to be available, but let's get on the road and take it for a drive. Put my phone in the wireless charger, which sometimes it doesn't want to charge. That might be my phone, that might be this, but I always prefer to just have a wired charger. There is a USB-C down here if you'd like to do that. Reasonable storage space down here. And when we pop it into reverse, this is something I love about GM vehicles, is just phenomenal camera quality with their overhead, rear, and side views. I mean, this is so much better than what we see from maybe Honda. My Honda, even my Lexus, just doesn't quite compete with this. And because this has the optional package, I even get a camera in the rear view. Now, we've also seen vehicles with these rear view cameras, but again, the quality isn't there in a lot of those vehicles, and it just defeats the purpose. If you do not have exceptional high definition quality in these cameras, they just do not work the way they need to do it. Get it into drive and take it out and see how this holds up as a Cadillac, because there's high expectations. Cadillac is the Cadillac of Cadillacs, is it not? I mean, we need luxury, we need refinement, but we also need enough performance to make it feel reasonably fun to drive. Cadillac almost muddled their own brand when they started doing really great performance vehicles. CTS-V, CT5 Blackwing. These are crazy vehicles that are now tire shredding monsters. And I think it's interesting because Cadillac, to me, usually just means luxury, comfort, a little bit of style and class, something that you're going to impress the neighbors with. But there's now this expectation that they've got to be tire shredders. It did feel like it's gradually increasing in torque as we went. So it wasn't giving me the full beans at the bottom of the barrel when I was pulling away from zero. Let's take a look and see if we can change our modes here. Drive modes, sport. All right, let's hit it in sport. Yeah, definitely more. And that's fun. I think it's cool because with an electric car, you can actually make sizable changes in the tune with the push of a button. You could, of course, do this with ICE cars, but just not quite in the same way. Regen. I have my paddle right here. This is a variable paddle. On the lower end of the GM spectrum, this is not a variable paddle. So if you get an Equinox, for example, that's just going to click on and off. Same with a Chevy Bolt. Whereas in this Lyriq, this is on a spring. So I can adjust and basically just regen to my heart's content. You can also use one pedal driving, but I kind of love having this paddle. This is a smart thing that GM has done and stuck with. Keep it up. We'll let this other fellow Cadillac go, and then we'll hit it. All right, now that we've gotten our hooning out of the way for acceleration testing, the ride quality is exceptional. This is a sanctuary. It really feels insulated and quiet and relaxing. I think this is every bit a Cadillac, and it sets itself apart dramatically from its Chevrolet counterparts. I do not feel like I am driving a Blazer EV or an Equinox EV whatsoever. This feels Cadillac. There's almost no wind noise whatsoever. We can go over some bumps. There is no noise from this cabin. I think the only noises I get are from my own things sitting over here. But let's talk luxury features. On the door, we have our heated and ventilated seat options. But in addition to that, we can change our lumbar support and massage function, which is great. My only gripe, and this is a real nitpick, is that this knob is in a very uncomfortable place to actually access, because it feels like I need to use this hand to use it, and then I'm cutting off my own hand driving the car. So it is a little awkward to use this knob, but look, if I need something that's a little uncomfortable and cumbersome to get to a massage seat, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to keep that on for the duration of this drive. Another feature that I wouldn't necessarily say is a luxury, but it does have Apple CarPlay, and that means something, because a lot of Chevy and other GM vehicles are moving away from Apple CarPlay. They're going straight to their native Google system. And the native Google system is really good, but I do think that there's a wide swath of customers that are just going to be turned off by the fact that they can't use the familiar system that they've been using and love. It may not be the best in the world, but it is something that we've just grown accustomed to. And when you've got multiple cars in your fleet, it is nice to just be able to jump in, plug in, and have the same looking interface. Something I like about this interface too is that they fit this screen in kind of a funky way. So that's like my home screen background, and then inside they've put the Apple CarPlay stuff. So I think that's pretty neat the way they've done this. But if you're so inclined to use the native system, you can use a map over here. Let's see, will it work? Sometimes it's persnickety. We'll say Google Maps, and then boom, you get a huge high definition display right in front of you, and then all you have is your display and your speed. Fantastic, doing the job. Like, this is good. It's so simple, but it also has a projection feature, so it'll project Apple Maps, but it will not project your Waze. So unfortunately, you're not getting the Waze map put onto your front screen, which would be nice. Handling wise, that's where this falls apart just a little bit. It doesn't feel very sporty, and I think that's a good thing. Before you say I'm a shill, I have a little hot take about the auto industry right now, and it's that everybody is trying to make cars that are all things to all people, and there are some far more egregious than others. And when I say this, I mean they're trying to make a sports car that is also a luxury car, and many years ago, it wasn't such. You would make a cheap econo car, you'd have your Corollas and Civics, and they would just do the job. They were a little crashy, but they were fine, and they got great fuel economy. Then you would have luxury cars, and those would just be luxury cars. Sure, a 740i might be fun to kind of hoon around and throw into a corner, but they weren't really out there to hit a Nürburgring lap time. That did not matter. And a sports car was a sports car. And I know that sounds annoying. I hate when people are like, when men were men. It's silly, but it's true. They were real sports cars. Sports cars were sports cars. And they didn't have to be comfortable. If your Porsche 911 GT3 was a little harsh over the bumps, well, so be it. It's a GT3. It should be a little harsh over the bumps. And this, see, it's a little roly-poly, but it hangs on okay. I feel like the seats are not exactly holding me in laterally. I'm floating around a little bit, but that's okay because I think that this Cadillac is a Cadillac. Look, we'll go over the tracks. It just absorbs everything, and it's fantastic. And I'm thrilled that it's not trying to be a luxury Cadillac as well as a sports car. I don't want it to be, because especially in this price range, I think a lot of people who are spending upwards of $80,000 on their luxury daily driver also have a weekender. So I don't need my daily driver to be a canyon carver. I want it to be a sanctuary, and I think that's what this is, because on the weekends, I'm gonna drive my weekender, and then I can have a hardcore little sports car for that purpose. I hope automakers go back to just making cars with a purpose without chasing numbers. And I think number chasing is the thing that really screwed things up over the last 15, 20 years. They started going after Nürburgring lap times, and then it was chasing horsepower numbers, then it was chasing figure eight lateral grip, and it's like, if you just have to improve and improve and improve and improve every single year, sometimes you miss the plot of what made a car good and what its purpose originally was intended to be. And I think this Lyriq doesn't necessarily care about lap times and 0 to 60s. It's got to be sufficient, but I don't think anyone's out there autocrossing this thing. They want it to be comfortable, and it just glides. To say it rides like a Cadillac is an understatement, but it sure is accurate. Pretty impressive traction system, not a chirp out of these wheels or these tires. And typically in an EV, the tires are designed for range, so they're going to be slightly less sticky, which means that they're loud. You know, when we chuck this into a corner, you'll probably hear them howling. So to get around that corner at basically wide open throttle, and it's managing all four wheels appropriately without even a chirp, is pretty wild. Let's jump on the highway. We've got some yucky pavement here, which is perfect. Because it'll illustrate how quiet and calm this thing is. EVs already take away so much stress from the driving experience. But we'll give this guy some room in case he wants to give room for this trailer over on the shoulder. But look, it gets you up to highway speeds really quickly, but in addition to having a relaxing powertrain, it's also well insulated. And it has Super Cruise. Proper hands-free driving. We will get over a lane. It's going to find its opening. It's going to move over its own lane. And we're good. So that takes even more stress away from the driving experience, because sometimes you're just, I want to drink my coffee and hang out and just cruise for 100 miles or so, or whatever commute you've got. The car will do it on its own at the touch of a button. And Super Cruise has so many highways and roads mapped that it's pretty rare that you end up in a situation where it fails you. When there's construction zones, unfortunately, there's some sections where they're redoing bridges on this particular highway, and when it doesn't have the lines, it will just kind of buzz at you. The seat will vibrate and say, hey, Super Cruise is over, we're done. You take control, and then we'll just go back. And that's fine. It keeps you engaged in the driving experience anyway, because this is not full self-driving. It is driving itself, and you are entitled to remove your hands from the wheel. It's not going to bark at me for not being here. But you know, I still am liable for whatever this car does. If if this decides to do something wonky and gets in an accident, well, I have to pay or whatever. You know, it's going to be on me. This guy's just texting though, and he don't have Super Cruise. I guarantee that RAV4 maybe has cruise control. Oh, it's so quiet. Highways are the enemy to range though, because at 70 to 72 miles an hour, you'll do okay. But once you get over maybe 75, if you're in that 75 to 80 mile an hour range, this will just start burning energy. And it's unfortunate, because it would be nice to just use these at speed, but you do find yourself kind of gaming the system on long road trips, because, kill this, it's buzzing at me, get off here, because we're gonna go charge at an EV Go station at Target, just to demonstrate what it can do. But unfortunately, these really don't perform to the extent of their range once you get over, 75 miles per hour. And I'm not encouraging you to speed, but there are a lot of 70 mile per hour highways in the country. So it's not unfounded to be going that fast. Even in Maine, when I drive up to visit my sister, those are 70 mile an hour roads. So let's jump over here at our EV Go and see how this goes. And before I forget, there is a glove box, and the only way in the glove box, I don't like this. It's this button right here. Here's why I don't like this. Because when I get in the car, there's no button. I can't open the glove box unless I start the car. I can hit this, press brake to start. I'm not getting anywhere. I actually have to start the car to get that going. And that's a little annoying. I just want that to be available to me. Now, maybe that's a feature where it's just, hey, you've got a locked glove box. I totally understand that. But what if I was just running out to the car like, oh shoot, I left that in my glove box and I just want to get into it. I actually have to start the car to get into it. To access the charging, we press here. That opens up. We'll pop this guy off so we can get to the fast charger. Pretty lovely. I do think that may become a problem in winter months. I'm sure they've done the testing. This is Michigan developed, right? So I do worry though, if this is all iced over, it might be difficult to open that. Touch to start. Let's plug in the old connector. And this should charge at 190 kilowatts. Contact service. Okay, so that's broken. So I think we have to go to a different charger. All right, let's go to the one next to it. This is the big problem I have with the infrastructure because it's kind of a joke. Hit that button to close it. Come over here, get back in the car. Luckily, no one else is here because I live in a place where not very many people use EVs. That one looks like it works. Let's try you, Devante. Take two. All right, open you up, plug you in. There we go. Uh-oh. Here we go. Here's the big problem with these. Come on. Are you gonna work? Come on. This is taking so long. I would have definitely been able to fill a car with gas by now. This is what drives me nuts. And I know that fast charging isn't the thing you're gonna do all the time, but you're mostly charging at home. I just wish this wasn't the way it worked. All right, let's see what we're gonna get. At 36, this should be able to charge at 190 kilowatts, and we've used enough of a charge that it should accept it. 180, 185. All right, so we're getting pretty much what they say it'll do. We're getting that 190, and that's fantastic. That is exactly what I want to see. Let's see if we come in here and we hit our button. Where are we at? Gaining, all right, this is fantastic. Turn this on, charging. There we go. We're getting 182 kilowatts. That's saying 187. This is saying 181. All right, not a crazy discrepancy, but this is great. We're gonna charge up a little bit so that way when I give this back tomorrow, I'm not a jerk. Something you should know is that this is not free. So we've been charging for 8 minutes and 45 seconds. We've spent $18 charging to get 22.2 kilowatt hours. So if you wanna know how many miles you got, if your average burn is, let's say, 2.5 to 3 miles per kilowatt hour, you can multiply that by that number. So let's say this at its most efficient is about 2.8 to 3, let's say 3, about 60 plus miles on the clock for 18 bucks. So just so you know, it isn't free. It is going to cost you some money. So let's stop it there because I don't need much more. We'll end the session and we'll remove this. Get back in and head back out for our final thoughts. But something that we're not talking about enough in the EV world that we talk about constantly in the ICE world, the internal combustion world, is efficiency. We're always talking about miles per gallon in our internal combustion cars. We want to know, can it get 30, 40, 50 miles per gallon? And we don't really recognize this in the EV world because we just look at range. But what about the efficiency of that range? What about the efficiency of using the power that's in the batteries? This guy is taking up quite a lot of lane. It will be interesting to see how this pans out with oncoming. But this number right here is the number we need to be looking at. 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour. That is how many miles do you get out of each kilowatt hour of battery capacity. That's what we need to know. And in very efficient EVs, Lucids, for example, they can get up to 5 miles per kilowatt hour. That is incredibly impressive. And that's where we need to be. But what we're not doing is we're not aiming, let's see if we can get around this guy safely. Yes. But what we're not doing is we're not holding these guys' feet to the fire to give us incredibly efficient EVs. Now, this is a larger EV. It weighs close to 6,000 pounds. It's not a Hummer, it's not a Silverado, but it's still not small. So we would expect it to be slightly less efficient than, say, a Nissan Leaf. But what I would love to see is the need for less batteries because we have optimized motor efficiency and aerodynamics. This is something that will change the game when we have either solid-state batteries or hyper-efficient motors. That, I think, is the future of electric motoring if it comes. And I think that is what's going to bring the weight in these vehicles down. I don't think that we're stuck forever with 6 to 10,000 pound electric vehicles in our future. I think that we're going to look back and think, oh my goodness, I can't believe our battery technology or our motor technology or our aerodynamics was so archaic that we were only getting 2 or 3 miles per kilowatt hour. And hopefully we get to a point where we're easily getting 9, 10, 11 miles per kilowatt hour. That is the future. That is what I hope we see. But I do think that just if you want to be a savvy EV buyer, you can't simply look at range. You need to look at the burn rate, because the burn rate is what effectively is going to cost you money. Because if you're burning a lot more of this energy out of the batteries, you're going to be spending a lot more than I just did at that EVgo station. So that's going to do it for me in the Cadillac Lyriq. I am genuinely impressed with this vehicle, mostly because it sticks to a plot. It sticks to a point and it gets there. It is not trying to be all things to all people. This is a comfortable luxury thing that you can haul people and stuff in, but you're not necessarily going to be hucking it around corners because it's just a little bit vague and lackluster, and it doesn't have the seat support to really make that an enjoyable experience. It doesn't encourage you to do it either, but man, oh man, is this a cozy, comfy sanctuary of an electric vehicle. And I think if this is the future of Cadillac, they're on to something. I just sincerely hope they can figure out how to get crazy range or crazy efficiency out of these without increasing battery weight, because it is a bummer when you end up in a 10,000 pound vehicle. This is pretty much the peak of what I'm willing to do for vehicle weight. 6,000 pounds. It's okay. They manage it well. When we go higher, it starts to get dicey. So thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.